Hello and welcome to Winter Grace Senior Ministries. I am joined by Holly Reynolds Lee, the owner of HR Signature Travel, and we are going to be talking about one of my most favorite things, travel. And Holly, just thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, it's a pleasure to talk with you again and to support Winter Grace.
Oh, thank you. So tell us, how did you get involved in the travel agent world?
Accidentally, as luck would have it. When I was studying abroad, I lived in England and sort of became the de facto planner for our group of friends. So every weekend, we took off for a different city, for a different experience. And when we came home, one of the members of that group became an author and was out on a book tour. And he said, "Look, can you handle the logistics for this for me?" And that's how it all started. So he took off as an author. I started booking travel for his parents, for friends, and all of a sudden here I am almost 20 years later, still accidentally in the industry and loving every minute of it. So I think that's great when life works out that way.
Absolutely. It was obviously what you were meant to do.
I hope so. And it's funny that I started planning for our group of friends. And really, I think my strength is really in group travel, whether that's small groups, 6 people going to take a river cruise, or larger, I've done a lot of church trips, a lot of student trips, where you've got multiple, dozens of people traveling. That's one of the times when it's really helpful to have a person helping to coordinate everybody's different plans.
That sounds like a lot of moving pieces, a lot of moving parts.
There are, even if everybody says, "Oh, we're all going to go to this resort," but there's always those little nuances like, "Oh, well, we really want to fly from this airport, or can we do that?" And the answer is always yes. And it's nice, I think, to have a person who can really kind of see what everybody's doing and kind of keep everybody on the same page. Because even if you're traveling as a group, you may have some different goals or things you want to do than your friends. And so we try really hard to always make sure that we're meeting the needs of the group as well as the needs of the individual traveler.
So that makes so much sense. So what are some of the other benefits of having a travel agent plan your travel rather than me just calling an airline and calling a resort and trying to coordinate it?
Sure. Well, I think we have seen in this era of a pandemic, really the value of what we do. I mean, we have never worked harder as travel agents.
Sure.
Just dealing with schedule changes, and sometimes they're major. Talking about what companies are going to offer you the best value, which experiences are safest. Talking about which companies offer you the financial security and the best options to ensure that your experience is going to be everything you want it to be. Because we're really in the nuts and bolts, this is what we do. We can, if you have your eye on a hotel in Mexico for an all-inclusive getaway, we probably have either been there or know someone who's been there or know someone who's visiting next week. And we can kind of say, that resort, they're not wearing as many masks as we would like to see. Or, hey, this resort, they're super strict. It's great for, so you really want to sort of match it. Those types of details are impossible to find online. Everybody lists their protocols, but what does it look like in reality? We often know what it looks like in reality.
Now, I know one of the people that recommended me to connect with you called you, or his group called you about 4 o'clock in the morning, and you helped to fix a big mess. How did that work out? How is that something you are doing, fixing messes?
Yes, absolutely. We always say the internet doesn't have a phone number, but I do. So I answer client calls at all hours because they're in a different time zone and there's a problem on the ground. And it's often an airline issue. We've had experiences where there's a passenger is ill, they need some support. We're contacting travel insurance companies. But I mean, really, I think what I feel as a travel agent, and I think most of my colleagues do as well, is that we really care about our clients. I love the people that I work for, and I want to support them and support their travel. So if you call me at 4 in the morning because your flight looks like it's going to be delayed and you're going to miss your connection, you're going to get me on the phone. And we sorted that out. They were in Russia. I was here. I was up. You know, it all worked out. And that's really, I think, the value, because you can always pay. You can pay the airline, absolutely, but you can't pay people to just care about you and be genuinely, truly interested in your safety and in your happiness when you're traveling. And that's really what travel agents do. That's the heart of our business.
I'm glad you mentioned they were in Russia, because I wasn't like encouraging people to call you, oh, I'm thinking about a trip at 4 a.m, but they were in Russia, and their flight had been canceled and needed rearrangements of flights. So I just want to add that in there too. Yeah. So as you know, Winter Grace Senior Ministries is for older adults and their families. And I'm wondering do you have some ideas about travel-specific thoughts about older adults traveling?
Sure. I think it's a great time for older adults to think about traveling. You know, in normal times, that's a huge part of the traveling world, because you have these adults who now, maybe for the first time, are retired, so they have time to travel. And this sort of curiosity and this desire to kind of check some things off the bucket list. You know, we have travelers who say, I've never seen Machu Picchu, I've never seen the Eiffel Tower. And they also often have this desire to share that with people, to say, I want to take my grandkids to Alaska. I want them to see X. I want to see it with them. So you get into this great time of making these memories with multi-generational travel, and often seniors are leading that charge, which is just awesome, especially over the last year when we've maybe seen grandparents separated from their grandchildren and from their adult children. That travel is a great way to bring everybody back together. And especially for seniors who've been vaccinated, there are some incredible travel opportunities out there right now. We are now seeing some travel suppliers and companies who are only open to vaccinated travelers.
Really? Okay.
It's incredible. It's a requirement to get on a certain cruise line, to travel to certain countries, that you have to be vaccinated. And it presents this really kind of unique opportunity, I think, to travel perhaps at a time that is slightly less busy than normal. For seniors who have had a vaccine, who hate crowds, who are still physically fit and have their doctor's clearance to travel, it could be a great time to get out there.
That's really encouraging. So what are your thoughts about how moving forward? Are we going to be seeing like a lot of resorts, cruise lines, and everything requiring vaccines? I think that's going to be a standard of?
I think it is, especially. I think it is, especially for cruise lines. I think they're going to be challenged by the fact that there are population groups who can't get the vaccine. But I think that's going to be the desire for a little bit anyway. And as a person, I want to be safe. I think it's a great thing for a lot of people, only because I would rather be on a boat where everybody's been vaccinated than not.
Okay, that makes sense. So suppose, okay, I'm ready. You know me. I love to travel. We've had 2 big trips canceled. We have one scheduled for December. We're hoping that's going to be a go, and it is a cruise. And so we're certainly hoping that's a go. We have to hope our governor opens the port before then. But at any rate, so somebody's watching, they want to work with you. What's the process? How do you work with a client to figure out the best options for them?
Sure. Well, we can certainly work through email, but I think a phone call is always a little bit easier. And the first thing that I do is sort of just get to know you a little bit. What do you love in the world? What are you hoping to experience on trip? Kind of, are there goals? Is it that, hey, we want to go somewhere and just relax? Or is it we want to go and experience this destination and see everything? Kind of what's the vision for it, and what do you have in mind? And then we take all those answers and we sort of head out to see what's available and what makes the most sense. And we're looking not only at who offers it, but who are they? Are they financially sound? Are their policies and programs friendly? Meaning, are they refundable? If a company says it's non-refundable, and we're not encouraging that right now. And we're really kind of steering away from that, because people need the flexibility at this point. We don't know what December looks like. So we're really, I think, stepping forward carefully, but with a lot of optimism and hope. So once we put together some ideas, we bring it back to a client and we say, here are, a handful of things that we think may work for you. And then we complete the booking process with them. And that's important because we have seen a ton of changes coming through. So it's really our job then to monitor and to be on top of it so that if changes happen, we're ready to come up with a new plan or amend as needed.
And the whole idea of refundable options is great. And those 2 trips that we canceled, the only thing that we didn't get back was an airfare. We have points for future, and hopefully we'll get to use those. But the whole idea of really caring about that refundable is something that we hadn't put so much stock in before, but we do now. Yeah. And travel insurance. Can you speak to that a little bit about travel insurance, what that means?
Sure. We really encourage people to have travel insurance, and there are a lot of different types of plans. There are plans that let you cancel for any reason. There are plans that cover you while you're traveling. There are plans that do both. So we really talk to a client about what's going on in their life that helps drive the travel insurance. For a lot of young adults who are traveling, some of our suppliers have offered great low-cost cancel for any reason plans. That works really well for them because they're, who knows why they might cancel, like any of us. But for others, if someone has a serious pre-existing medical condition, we need to make sure that we're purchasing the right kind of travel insurance, that if that condition flared, they would have the right coverage and have coverage during their trip. So travel insurance is a very a customizable thing, and you need to customize it to make sure that it does what you need it to do. It's not a one-size-fits-all product.
That's what we have learned, and I would feel much more comfortable speaking to someone who knows what they're trying, rather than trying to pick one out myself. That's the best fit. So,
right. We're not insurance brokers, and we are always, insurance is a challenging thing, but we work with great companies. So really, we lay out the plans and the options, and we can say, here are some of the questions that come to our mind. Would you like to talk with the insurance company directly?
Sure.
But we know kind of who to work with, and from personal experience. I mean, I've had to use travel insurance for my own self many times, and I can tell you which companies have been great and responsive, and which companies I wasn't really thrilled with my experience as a consumer.
Right.
So we bring all of that to the table.
Well, I'm excited to hear your optimism for getting back to travel and learning how to make good plans and all those steps. And is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we go?
I think the only thing I would say is don't wait too long to plan, because we're seeing that people are really starting to book for 2022 and even 2023. And you can't even wrap your head around that. You're like, we are 2+ years in the future. But because travel has been canceled and sidelined, we're seeing that companies are opening up their availability more sooner than normal, and that it's filling faster because everybody's like, you know what, I would rather book a 2023 trip, make payments along the way to help cover those costs, to have a big event, a big epic adventure on our schedule, but also because if you wait, odds are you're not going to get what you want because everybody's just itching to get out the door. Especially for places that have not been opened. The Alaska cruise season we've lost 2 years of it. And it is heartbreaking for the cities and the towns in Alaska that depend on these cruise ships, for those small businesses. But we're seeing that sailings for 2022, they're just really filling up. So please, this is not the time to kind of sit and wait. Again, when we're dealing with refundable trips, if the price goes down, we can always cancel it and rebook. We can always work to, get that lower price, but the space is going to be in high demand, we think, for the next few years.
Well, we're hopeful. We have our fingers crossed for Alaska in May, June of 2022.
I hope.
We're booked. We're ready.
We're so hopeful. And it's, it's such a great destination, and it's just, it's a place that, you know, I think everybody should visit. And it's just, we understand certainly all the safety concerns. It was just, it's hard news to hear that we've lost another season, but Alaska is a resilient, wonderful place, and we have high hopes that they are going to emerge ready to welcome guests in 2022 and beyond. And for people who are still really itching to go, there are great land options. I mean, you can explore Alaska by land, and we really encourage people to sort of think outside the box. Don't just, you know, put your box on a shelf. But if you're like, you know what, I really wanted to go this year, we're still seeing ways to make that happen.
That's true. That's true.
So don't, you know, I think if anything, travel agents are creative problem solvers. So just bring us your stuff, and we'll look at it from every dimension and say, these are the options. And a lot of times we can find an option that suits.
That sounds great. Holly, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And all the best to you and to Winter Grace.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.